We're learning about Chol Hamoed. Chol Hamoed has a lot of things that are not permitted, but some things that are permitted. The Chol Hamoed is Asur Melacha min Torah. The Torah doesn't permit doing Melacha on Chol Hamoed. Why? Because it says Kol Melacha lo ta'asu. Either from there or you learn it from Mikra Kodesh. And there's a big machloket in the Rishonim whether the Melacha that's Asur on Chol Hamoed is the Oraita from those psukim, or it's midirabanan. Chachamim restricted it to give honor and to differentiate, to designate Chol Hamoed from the weekdays and to make them more chashuv. But even if you hold it's the Oraita, the Ritva and other Rishonim explain that Chachamim were given the power to structure Chol Hamoed and to say what's permitted and what's not permitted. It's considered Masro HaKatuv LeChachamim. They are the ones to decide whether something is permitted or not. They structured Chol Hamoed, and therefore they said one should not do anything on Chol Hamoed unless it has one of those conditions, one of those categories, whether it is tzorech ochel nefesh, for food. For food you're allowed to do anything you need and you want. Unlike Yom Tov, which is restricted very much. Ochel nefesh is permitted on Yom Tov. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. But there's restrictions of how and when, what's permitted, how to do it. On Chol Hamoed, there's no restrictions. You can do for Ochel Nefesh whatever is needed. Also, to prepare the Machshirei Ochel Nefesh, which means not only to prepare the food, but if you need to work out the oven, you need to do something for the things that cooks. Like for instance, you need to buy a new microwave in order to, or a new barbecue. You want to make barbecue. So making barbecue is one thing, but you don't have any of the, you don't have the barbecue machine. So you're allowed to go and buy a barbecue machine on Chol Hamoed. Why? It's Machshirei Ochel Nefesh. Secondly, if it's Sorkei Hamoed, anything that you need for the Moed, whatever is needed for the Moed is also permitted. Thirdly, something that is Meniat Hefsed, which means sometimes if you don't go to work, you lose. Not that you gain, you lose a gain, but rather you lose money. For example, you have your fruits that were collected, and now if you leave them out and you don't bring them into the storage house, the rain is coming the next day and everything is going to be flooded and ruined. So it is permitted. It is permitted to. Fourth, ani she'en lo ma she'ochal. Some people don't have enough money. They're not making enough money to survive. They need the daily salary. So now you had Yom Tov, you had Shabbat. Comes Chol Hamoed, they just can't take off. They're not going to be able to pay their expenses. Because of that, they would be permitted to work. And also, when you need something for a mitzvah purpose, it would also be permitted. So you have over here a bunch of things. Oh, and also tzorkei harabim. Tzorkei harabim is very important. When you need something that's tzorkei harabim, you're doing it for the public, you are permitted to do it. So let's see each one by itself. We'll talk about each halacha separately. So ochel nefesh. Ochel nefesh, one is allowed to do, whether it has to do with a lot of tircha. Normally you try to limit tircha on Chol Hamoed. There's some things that are permitted to do if they're not causing you a lot of tircha, a lot of effort. If it's a lot of effort, it's not permitted. But for Ochel Nefesh, even though you have to sit in the kitchen all day and cook and prepare the food, it's permitted. Even though it's Melechet Uman, for example, if you're a chef, you're allowed to work on Chol Hamoed because it's for Ochel Nefesh. Even though you're doing it for others and you get paid, it's your job, it's permitted to do on Chol Hamoed. So you have all these leniencies, and also you don't have to do any shinui. Normally, some things you'll have to do shinui. Over here, no shinui is needed. And you're allowed to do it and sell your food or work for others, and everything would be permitted. One of the things that's very interesting is many people go on Chol Hamoed apple picking. Apple picking Is that permitted? So the halacha says one is allowed to pick food. But over here, when you go apple picking, what are you picking? For pleasure, for enjoyment. It's not that you really need to eat the fruits, the apples. You just want to have some good time. You take your kids, you're apple picking. It's a very common thing to do on Chol Hamoed. Is it permitted? So according to what we're saying right now, it is permitted. But it's permitted for what you are planning to eat. But normally you pick a little bit more than that. You fill up a bag. You buy a bag and you have to fill up that bag. You're not gonna put over there only you're eating 10 apples, let's say, with the family. That's what that's what you'll end up eating. So you're picking up 30 apples. How is that possible? So there is room to be lenient with that, because in the end of the day, it could be that you'll eat more. You don't have to be metzamtzem. You don't have to pick exactly the amount of apples that you'll be eating, so you can pick more. And also, there's a leniency that maybe you'll have guests. You don't know. You pick in 10, but in the end of the day, maybe for Yom Tov you'll have some friends coming over on afternoon, and you can give them a little bit of apples. You can invite them to eat some apples, and that's a nice thing. So you don't have to be metzamtzem. You don't have to get exactly the amount. This is how some of the poskim say. Rav Eliashiv, Rav Nisim Karelitz. It's brought down in Moadim Uzmanim, Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. So you don't have to be medakdek on the shiur. Even more, it's permitted to get on Chol Hamoed. Now, when we're dealing with the next thing, and that is Tzorkei Chol Hamoed. Chol Hamoed, even though the need is not Ochel Nefesh, it is permitted if it's done for Chol Hamoed. Because if it is Ochel Nefesh, you don't need the heter of Tzorech HaMoed. We already said that Ochel Nefesh is permitted. So what would be an example? Let's say you want to go to travel, to visit, you want to go somewhere. You're allowed to go and visit. So for example, let's say you need a car cleaned to go, let's say, for your travel. You take your kids somewhere nice, but your car became dirty. You want to take it for a car wash so you can feel comfortable. You don't feel comfortable going with a dirty car. It is permitted. It's Tzorech HaMoed. For that, you need to be driving. You need to fix something in order to travel on Chol Hamoed. You have a flat tire, so you're allowed to fix it. Especially that's the way the Or Letzion writes in the Sefer. You're allowed to fix it in order to go on Chol Hamoed. But the idea of cleaning, that's already more in Shulchan Aruch, where he speaks about the horse of a person, that you're allowed to clean him up in order to use him for Chol Hamoed, for riding on it and so on. So over here we'll find the same thing on Chol Hamoed. You're allowed to do such a melacha. Also, if you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others. It's not only that if you need to drive on Chol Hamoed and you have a flat tire, so you take it to fix, but you can also take your friend's car to fix on Chol Hamoed. So that would be nafka mina, for instance, for chaverim that constantly help out people that their car gets stuck. They don't have to say that it's Chol Hamoed, we're not going to help out. They need the car for Chol Hamoed. They need to go places. It's fine to fix it. Not everybody would permit it. Some would say that you could do it through a goy, especially if it's something that you really don't need and it's a big thing. Small thing like fixing tires could be more lenient. So, see a corn. So we're saying an idea that anything that is considered maaseh hediot, one is allowed to do on Chol Hamoed. So therefore, changing a tire is maaseh hediot, because people know how to change tires, even though they're not interested today. Nobody wants to change tire. You just call somebody to do it for you. But changing a tire is something that people do know how to do, and therefore if you need to change the tire, even with somebody that does it for you or you yourself, you're allowed to do it. But Maseh Uman, something that really requires a professional, requires to take it to the garage and really fix it, that becomes more of a problem. That already the poskim wouldn't agree that one is allowed to fix this. There's a difference here between something that's really simple and you just need to change a bulb in the car, or something simple that really people know how to do. This you're allowed to do, although there are opinions. There are those that don't allow any of that. But changing a tire, for instance, it's not considered Maseh Uman. This is how the Shevet HaLevi writes. And doing more than that, really like the engine went out or something in the car engine needs to be fixed, in the mechanics needs to be fixed, that becomes a little bit more problematic that one should try to avoid. Look, the poskim do write that fixing, let's say the horse, or in our case it would be a car, they don't say chiluk between Maseh Uman and Maseh Ediot. Although normally, generally, in Chol Hamoed, there's a chiluk between Maseh Uman and Maseh Ediot. Maseh Uman is not permitted, Maseh Ediot is permitted. Maseh Ediot is something that people know how to do generally. Maseh Uman means a professional knows how to do. Over here, when we're dealing with using your vehicle to go on Chol Hamoed for the honor of Chol Hamoed, to take your family places, to enjoy Chol Hamoed, it's a tiul, it's something that you want to do on Chol Hamoed, you want to take out the family. There's no, the poskim didn't make a chiluk between Maseh Uman and Maseh Ediot. So the Chut HaShani, that's Chut Shani is of Nisim Karelitz, and the Or LeTzion of Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, say that we don't see in the poskim a chiluk between the two, and therefore if you need to do it, Maseh Uman, it's permitted as well, especially if the person is a goy that's doing it for you, it's permitted. But this is all true when we're dealing with a regular melacha with going to a mechanic. But if the mechanic is poor, for instance, as you're saying right now, so then a poor person can do whatever's needed, because he doesn't have the money for Chol Hamoed. He doesn't have the money for Yom Tov. It's interesting also that normally you're not allowed to do melacha even with poalim, not only yourself, and even through a goy. Whatever you're not allowed to do, the Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to tell a goy to do for you as well, with some restrictions. Of course, there's some leniencies here and there, but that is the general rule. But when we're dealing with a person that doesn't have enough money to go through the holiday, he needs the money. It's considered ani. What's ani? Definition of ani. Shulchan Aruch writes in Hilchot Tzedakah, it used to be in the time of Chazal that ani is one that didn't have 200 kesef. That was an amount to live for a year. But the Shulchan Aruch says that the category of ani today is one who doesn't have enough to pay his expenses. He doesn't make enough to pay his living expenses. So that is the definition. You need to know today living expenses are off the roof. And a person that doesn't make it with his salary to cover his expenses is considered ani. You could give him tzedakah. You could give him your tzedakah, your maaser, and help him out in any way. If a person does cover his expenses, so then he's not ani anymore. He's not ani. That is the definition of ani. Over here also, one who would not be able to live, to buy food for Yom Tov, to pay his expenses, of course, that is one of the categories that's considered ani, and he can go to work on Chol Hamoed. So we spoke about Tzorkei Moed. One is allowed, for instance, when we're dealing with Tzorkei Moed, to do all kind of things that are not Maseh Uman but Maseh Ediot. For instance, your blind in your house broke. You want to go to Home Depot and put new blinds. Anybody knows how to put new blinds. You don't need to call for that a professional. Can you do that on Chol Hamoed? The answer is yes, if you need it for Chol Hamoed. You want to have blinds. You don't want your neighbors to see what goes on inside your house. And you just attach it to the wall. It's a simple thing. You're allowed to do it. Another example, for instance, you go to IKEA, and you buy yourself a new sofa. So normally buying is something you're not allowed to do on Chol Hamoed. Going shopping on Chol Hamoed is not permitted unless it's needed for the Moed. So you want to enjoy it on Chol Hamoed, just like if you want to have clothing for Chol Hamoed, for the Moed, or for Yom Tov. You want to have it for Yom Tov, to honor Yom Tov, you're allowed to go shopping. But for after Yom Tov, you shouldn't. You want it, because people take advantage of the fact, that's what Chachamim said, people take advantage of the fact that now they're not working for a few days, and right after Yom Tov, they're back into the busy schedule of their day. So now they have time. They take advantage. They go shopping. They do a lot of things. So Chachamim restricted. No, Chol Hamoed is not meant for that. But if you're not buying it because you don't have time afterwards, but you're buying because you want to honor the Yom Tov, you want to honor Chol Hamoed, it is permitted. So you bought a sofa from IKEA. Can you put it together? You need some screws, to screw the legs together. Or you bought a nice table you want to have for Yom Tov. Can you put it together? And if it's a simple thing like they do like they sell in IKEA or in those kind of stores, you just put it together, and it's for the honor of Yom Tov. It's called Letzorech Hamoed, and it is something that's considered Maaseh Yot. Such a thing mutar on Chol Hamoed. Next, Davar Aved. We spoke about Davar Aved. Davar Aved is when if you won't take care of it, you'll have a loss. A loss means a real loss, not a loss of a gain. In other words, if a person doesn't open his business, so he's going to lose the gain. He makes money in his business. Is he allowed to have his business open when it's not one of those categories? No, he should close his business unless it's Tzorkei Arabim. Let's say you're selling food for the public, you have a supermarket or so on. Okay, that's for Tzorkei Arabim. It's permitted. But if you're selling general things that are not so, you're selling furniture. People don't buy furniture normally it's not something that people buy for Chol Hamoed, although there are Yechidim, but you don't open it. That is Davar Aved. Davar Aved means that you really would have a loss. Says the Shulchan Aruch, if you have a business opportunity, a big business opportunity. Sometimes you're a businessman, and sometimes you get like a nice opportunity, and you don't want to lose it. You don't want to lose it. They don't come around every day. It's a nice amount that you can make without doing a lot of effort, but it's a gain. It's not a loss. You're not going to lose anything. You're just going to lose the profit. So says the Shulchan Aruch, it would be permitted if you spend extra money for Yom Tov, which means you make that big business opportunity, and the money you're making, spend a little bit more on Yom Tov. Sometimes a person doesn't need for Yom Tov more. He buys a certain amount on Yom Tov, and he has all that he needs. If he buys more, it doesn't benefit more as Yom Tov. Some people feel very comfortable to buy whatever's needed, and they're not need extra for Yom Tov. They have everything. So then you have another solution. You can give it to those that don't have. There are people that don't have. Give it to them. You made a nice amount of money. Make sure it's spent on Yom Tov. How do you do that on Yom Tov? Give it to those people that really don't have and don't make enough money and could benefit from it on Yom Tov. One of the things, for instance, that would go under this category as well of Maaseh Yot is writing. When we're dealing with writing, Letzorech Hamoed, Shulchan Aruch permits writing anything that is Maaseh Yot, and you need a tzorech for the Tzorech Hamoed, which means like this. You want to go shopping at the store, so you need to write, or your wife writes for you all the shopping list. It's needed. You need to take it with you to the store. It's Letzorech Hamoed. And even though it's a very small need, it's tzorech muat. It's not a great need, but it's needed, and it's Maaseh Yot because writing is something very, very simple. It's something that everybody knows how to do. It's not something that only professionals know how to do. Therefore, such a thing would be permitted. You need to, let's say, deposit a check today, or you need to pay a bill today. Otherwise, you're going to get fined. So it's a simple thing, and it's needed right now. So you could do such a thing. If, by the way, the Rama is more machmir than Shulchan Aruch on this. He doesn't permit unless there's a real need, and if you have to do it crooked, right? Crooked. But the Or Letzion says a chidush. He says, that there's a difference between our writing today and the writing that they used to write at the time when they restricted writing. Because back then you used to use a kulmus, a quill, and you had to dip it in ink. And it was a whole maaseh. Not everybody knew how to write with a kulmus. It's a maaseh. It's davar that has torach in it. Today, the pen comes in, you just take it and you write. Even a baby knows how to take it and scribble with it. So something that's very simple, easy, everybody knows how to do. It's not as problematic as it used to be. Therefore, using it, as long as you have some need for Chol HaMoed, is permitted. If you want to be machmir and write a little bit crooked, that's the Rama opinion, you could do that. But what would be a tzorech? Not a tzorech hadiot, but rather a maaseh uman. Not maaseh hadiot, but rather maaseh uman. If a person needs to write, for instance, on a sefer Torah, you need to fix a sefer Torah, you need to fix a mezuzah, you need to write with a kulmus, that's maaseh uman.
That you're not allowed.
That you're not allowed on Chol HaMoed, with some restrictions. But normally you can't just, a sofer can't write mezuzot on Chol HaMoed. Okay, so we spoke about ktiva on Chol HaMoed, schora, you're not allowed to do business on Chol HaMoed. There's much more things here that need to go through, but I think it's fine for now, no?